TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. Sorry we're a little bit late. I'm looking at the clock here and we're 15 minutes past the normal kickoff time, Brad, and we've all got reason. Yeah, you're okay. We'll blame Brad.
This week it is mainly Brad's fault. Do you know, I've got a friend of mine who used to work in IT in Holland, right, in the Netherlands. Yeah, it's such a Dutch thing to do, but he worked in like IT support, yeah, and they would have who's to blame for the week, right? So they took it in turns to be who's to blame. So if anything went wrong, well, this week Brad's name is on the board for anything that goes wrong. So you're to blame. So we don't worry about who's to blame because we already know, and then we just go away and fix it. Can I say that's such a Dutch thing to do? You know, we have somebody to blame for the week, and then we don't worry about it.
Yeah, this is the shit kicker. This is the shit kicker for the week. So the shit kicker for us being late this morning, or this evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, is Brad. But we gave him an ultimatum. We were giving him ultimatums, Simon.
Yeah, either give us the photos or don't.
We're notorious. We're notorious on this channel for giving people ultimatums. So, Brad, sorry, bro, we gave you that ultimatum, but you accepted it. So good on you.
Oh, look, I'm still here. I'm still here, guys.
Money.
So. No comment.
Right, no comment. Welcome to the channel. Seriously, folks, we're 2 minutes in. It's always a pleasure to join you. We ask you, if you are watching on replay, please to subscribe to our channel. But more importantly, if you can subscribe to our channel friends. We were just talking in the green room. We're very, very happy to be associated with Great Van Zenny, a very dear friend of ours who's been on the channel 3 or 4 times. Simon, who does a lot of guitar reviews and talks about guitars, and he's regularly busy on his channel. Recently reached 1,000, so happy to have any of our friends who want to be on part of that channel thing that we've got going. And also, please, if you want to follow us on Instagram, there's some of our friends there. John ZD351, the Rock Professor is over there, and Brad's over there doing regular posts. In fact, if you were following Brad, you would have realised over the last couple of days that there was an anniversary, a major Beatles anniversary that Brad had the pleasure to be part of recently, and it had everything to do with White Stripes on a road, Brad.
Yes. One of my all-time favorite albums, anniversary of the photo shoot for that album. So that's one of the most iconic rock album covers of all time, in my opinion. And I had the pleasure of this year going to London to Abbey Road, and it was an amazing thing to actually go there. You realize how little the street is, and the picture looks massive. Like lengthwise, it's quite a long street, but widthwise, it's not that wide. You know, you're looking at it. Wow. But yeah.
Can I say, Brad, that's just a normal London street.
I know.
It's not that wide. It's not a freeway. That's
just a
normal English street. That's how big they are.
But Simon, let me say, over the years of me just studying that album cover for hours on end, just while listening to the record of that, I've never been to a London street before, so it looked massive. I was like, man, this street is very wide. It's massive. And then obviously going there, you realise how quite narrow it is. So
not only is it just what I would call a normal, like not that wide, but also it's also a residential area, isn't it? I see those houses. I mean, I know that that there used to be trouble, using some of the reverb tanks, the room when some on the roof, and That would cause trouble with the neighbours if you turned it up to make them work properly. They could hear it because they're next door. Kind of thing. Yeah, it's not in some industrial estate somewhere, is it? Or so it's right in the middle of a normal city street.
That's right.
People live.
And the other thing I noticed is how cranky some of the Londoners get when you're trying to get a photo on the actual crossing. I nearly had a motorbike run me down.
16th time as Deliveroo boy is like
motorbike run me down. But even worse, my partner Jackie, she nearly got run over about 3 times, and I'm not joking. She nearly got killed about 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
if you take that life insurance on her or something, you walk across again.
You know what? I actually had a quick look online at people doing the crossing just for a laugh, and there was a clip of Paul McCartney crossing it like a few years ago, and a bloke nearly ran him down as well. I was like,
"That's right."
Do you realise he nearly ran over?
Yes. Do you realise what you're doing? Yes. I don't care. I've got food to deliver. Out of the way, McCartney.
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So we love that.
That was, and if you'd followed Brad, you would have kept up, folks, with some great posts that he put up there. So and again, we want to be out there and let you know that we've ranked that album. We've done a couple of shows on that album. And we've got a couple of other Beatles shows planned too. In fact, we were talking in the green room at the end of last week's show, folks, about some albums coming up, and Brad mentioned one Beatles album in particular that we haven't done. I'm not going to tell you what the album is because we don't want to spoil it for you. And we quickly all agreed and realised, actually, shit, that's probably 3 shows, that album. It's not, it's not an hour and a half show, bro. So okay, maybe we should plan. We should plan.
I also thought, Andrew, through the week, I thought maybe it's good we didn't pick to do it this week because I've been pretty busy. And secondly, I thought I think we all might have to take on the task of that record equally when we do the presentation. So maybe Andrew, you do one part of it, Simon, you do one part, and I do another part, and we collaborate. I think that might be easiest because it's a big one.
And we have to include the singles as well too that were released, Simon, in association with the album as well too, which are just as important as the album because they paved a lot of the techniques and also building up that momentum around the album, Simon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But we're not telling you what that album is.
I'm sure some people listening probably already know what album we're talking about, but we won't say it. We'll keep you guessing. I will share. I'm actually start sharing a few of the experiences I've had of like the Liverpool trip I did, this and that. And I share some photos online and stuff like that. So I'll start doing that.
Awesome.
So go check me out on Instagram. Go and follow.
Thank you, bro.
Follow me on Instagram.
Follow.
My Brad's world travels.
No, well, I should share some of it. So why not?
Well, exactly. All right, guys. So what we're going to do is we had some good views on the channel last week on the Mail show and the Van Halen show. So tracking along well, boys.
Yeah. No, we're getting some great views, and people are loving the content. So we're keeping it positive, guys, and we're just staying on track. And I love that. I love that we just stay on the track. We're not going off the dirt track too much, and staying on the bitumen, and that's where we like to be.
Staying on the bitumen.
I think that's a good point that Brad raises, folks, and it's something that the 3 of us here are proud to present to you, that we are like that. And while we're talking about that and being positive, I want to remind you that Brad and I are going to be here in a couple of weeks' time with Simon Hosford.
Yes.
On a Tuesday, Australian, New Zealand, in the evening. So we're going to be hanging out for a couple of hours, and we're going to be talking about Live Without a Net, the Van Halen documentary concert that came out in 1986, Brad, that we've again been associated a few times with on this channel. And one of the great things about having Simon Hosford on the channel talking about Van Halen things, Rock Professor, is how positive and how honest that guy has been.
27th. It is the 27th.
Yeah, I agree, Andrew. And if you haven't already, he had his video go live this morning for his solo from Live Without a Net. And I have to tell you guys, I watched it and I'm in awe of this guy. I even said to my partner, I was out having lunch with her today and I messaged, you know, a few people to go check it out. And I said to my partner, I said, what Simon's done there, I'm not sure any other guitarist within the world could replicate what Simon's actually done.
I agree with you, bro. And I'm going to put that, bro, in the chat right now, if that's okay, while we're talking about it.
Hoss, I'm going to call you Sir Hoss from now on, because I'm going to knight him a Sir Simon Hosford after watching that, because that's incredible, Simon. And I'm really, really, really proud to know you and say, you know, that's an incredible feat. That's a lifetime of work in that one video, Andrew and Simon. That's a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
Studying.
Yeah. Somebody who doesn't really know, Brad, is it particularly difficult? Is it particularly technical? Is it?
I'm not even going to try and explain it to you, Simon. You have to go watch. And then watch
I will watch it, but
watch how he's done it, how he's mapped out the tempos and everything on Pro Tools. The way he's done it, it looks like, man, this guy is something remarkable. He's next level, and that's all I'll say. If you haven't watched it after our show, go and have a watch of it, and it's phenomenal. Simon, mate, you know you're a what can I say? You're a gem, mate. You're one of the greatest guitarists that Australia's ever seen. And worldwide, I'm sure he ranks up there as amongst the greatest. To actually be able to pull off. It's a lifetime. It's like I was trying to explain to my partner. It's like reproducing a Picasso or something like that, and doing the brush strokes for the same and everything. He's done it like perfect. So there's a lot of study that's gone in there, but not many guitarists could pull it off the way he has. So remarkable. Unbelievable.
And we're lucky, bro, that we're going to go live with him in a couple of weeks for him to talk about that with us. And we may have some other guests come on too. Who knows? He may bring Jerry. He may bring Jason on. Who knows? We look forward to it. So it's going to be our celebration of that important event in Van Halen history. And Simon and Brad, as you guys know, and people watching our channel, Van Halen's a big part of our channel. You know, the subject of Van Halen and the topic of Van Halen. It's a big part of what we do here, and will always be. So it's just a pleasure to be able to do that, Brad.
Unbelievable, bro. It's an unbelievable pleasure to be able to present everything Van Halen orientated in a positive manner. So, you know, respect to, you know, all lineups of Van Halen and everything they gave to us throughout the years that Ed was alive and post, you know. But I do recommend, Simon, that you go and watch it after our show.
Oh, well, yeah, I will.
It's a guitar solo.
Gretsch has already watched it, which is really cool.
It's a guitar solo that goes for 10 minutes, improvised. Ed improvised on stage, and he turns the volume down on Ed while the visual's there, and he plays along. So basically,
oh wow,
that's next level. You have to watch it to understand. But
okay, but the main thing is it's a really long solo.
It's 10 minutes solo. Yeah. And then he goes through the gear and all that stuff and shows you even down to how he mapped it out on Pro Tools, and that stuff blows my mind. That's unbelievable. So
fantastic. No,
but don't watch it now while we're doing this show. Go watch it later.
Okay, you've talked me out of it. I'm watching with the sound off. Apparently, it's really good with the sound off.
He's turned his head down while he's playing along. So yeah. Anyway.
1.2 views already.
1.2K.
Wow.
Oh,
Yep.
look, it'll get up in the millions, no doubt. I reckon. I don't think there's
Awesome.
anyone on YouTube that's done anything like this before.
No. So, and again, another honor for our channel, bro, that he's decided, that he reached out to us. He reached out to us for us to do this. So,
I actually
anytime Hosford asks us to do anything, we're doing it, aren't we?
Well, you know what, Andrew, I said to my partner at lunch today, I said, you know what? If Sammy ever decided to bring the Best of All Worlds tour to Australia and Joe Satch couldn't do the gig because he had other commitments, well, they could just pull Hoss up, mate, and he'd do just a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I'm still listening. I'm just doing something in the background.
Anyway, so we're here, gentlemen, today. We should pull the
You should get back. Shall I say hello to everyone's in the chat first?
Yes, I think that's a good opportunity.
Phil Byers, good morning, Phil, or in evening in his world, but morning, mine. Gretch Zeppelin, morning, Gretch. Hope you're good. Ellen, of course, Ellen. Good morning, Ellen. I hope you're good as well. So Christopher Livesover, he dropped in as well with a thumbs up. So thank you, Chris, for that. Nobody else has commented. I don't think. Gretch, Phil. So welcome all. Good morning. Hope you're all good. And if you want to make a comment and say hi, I'll endeavour to say hi back.
Yes, please do. We're all about acknowledging everyone in the chat. We want to see you guys if you've done your homework. We hope you have with this record.
Marking your homework later.
It's great because it gives us a bit of a concept of what everyone else thinks of it. Because sometimes I think we're very similar with our rankings, and I think sometimes it's we rank like very similar. Sometimes we're off. Someone gets in the timeout.
Yeah, someone gets the ump.
It's good to see what other people are saying. So yeah. So guys, we're in celebration of the band Aerosmith. They announced they're retiring last week, and we mentioned it on the show last Sunday or Saturday, wherever you are. And we thought we'd bump a few shows we had planned and do Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith, just as a bit of a celebration to Steven Tyler and the guys. It's a bit of a sad announcement by Aerosmith. Nevertheless, I've seen them a couple of times live, and I have to say, one of the greatest rock bands I've ever seen live in all time. They're just phenomenal. Steven Tyler is one of the most incredible front people I've ever seen. He's an entertainer. His vocal range was phenomenal. Hopefully it's not the end of Aerosmith as we know them. Hopefully they'll still do records and maybe the odd appearance, which would be phenomenal. But only time can tell. But we picked Toys in the Attic because it's a ball-tearing blues rock classic, in my opinion. And I think there's some fantastic songs on there that are landmark songs by the band Aerosmith, and I think it's just great that we can acknowledge these fantastic tracks. And if you guys are ready, I'll dive straight into my analysis of the album, if you guys are up for it. All right. So
yeah,
Toys in the Attic was released in April 8, 1975. It was Aerosmith's third studio album. It was pretty much a breakthrough for them into mainstream success. With this record. It was recorded at the record plant in New York City, produced by Jack Douglas, who was a big part of refining their sound. The album, I would like to describe it as hard rock, classic rock, and blues rock. It's got a lot of blues, boogie, and to some extent, there's a little bit of country vibes in there and stuff like that, but I still like to call it a hard rock record. And very innovative record for its time too. In 1975, we consider the bands that were around and what was being released. It's got some dynamic vocals from Steven Tyler. He's, like I said, one of the greatest front people of all time, and his vocal range is absolutely phenomenal. I never realized how integral and important part Steven Tyler was in the band Aerosmith until I watched the making of Pump, and I walked away from that realizing that he was an absolute genius. Probably as Joey Kramer would say, he's a pain in the ass for him, but I think Steven Tyler, without being the type of person that he was and the perfectionist and driving the band, they would never have got to that point with Pump sounding so good and records that they've done. Like Nine Lives, I absolutely love that record. I put it on this week as well, just to break up the monotony of listening to the same thing. And they're just a phenomenal band, and their sound evolved, but they stuck with this hard rock, classic rock, blues rock thing, I think, throughout their career. On this record, there's obviously a lot of songs written about personal struggles with fame, the rock star life, and being on the edge. And they wrote a song about being on the edge, on later records, Get a Grip. This album features some phenomenal tracks, including Walk This Way, Sweet Emotion. It received critical acclaim and commercial success throughout the world, peaked at number 11 on the Billboard 200 chart, certified 8 times platinum by the RIAA, and singles Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion become major hits and even more so integral parts of their set list, and probably got to a point where if they left those songs out of their set list, fans would probably not quite very happy. It's like Clapton leaving Layla out of a set list. People would just get really upset about it. The legacy of this band, one of the greatest rock albums of all time, this album is. The band Aerosmith were around in the 70s, and obviously to now, up to this point, still relevant. They've had their ups and downs. They've had their addictions. They've had their things that have their vices, and they've managed to continue a career. Even to the point where they've influenced an abundance of bands, including some of our favorites, Guns N' Roses. Massive influence on those guys, and a lot of bands, even bands like modern bands like Rival Sons and things like that. They all talk about Aerosmith as being a fairly big, influential band to them. So for me, it's Aerosmith's, one of their creative peaks was Toys in the Attic. Like I said, it's a landmark record, and it really did set a new standard of rock for me, my opinion, in the 70s. It's a, influential rock record, and it remains a massive, crucial part of Aerosmith's legacy. So, gentlemen, I want to ask you if you've got anything to add to that you think that I've missed or overlooked in my explanation of the record. If not,
I have a couple of things. Interestingly, Brad, it didn't really do much over here. Aerosmith were kind of not. I didn't really have a hit until Walk This Way with Run DMC, really, and clearly they've had some hits since then. Some the later stuff, but in this point, they're as far as the UK is concerned, they're just another American band, which is quite interesting. So it didn't really appear on my radar at all. And going through that period, there was other stuff going on that was much more high profile here. Not I was just having a look at the chart things. It's got Australian charts and Canadian and French and US. Hasn't got any UK stuff at all. So I don't think it charted here at all. And I don't think they toured over here really. They might have come from the odd festival, but it didn't really make a big impression over here as a thing. I just had a quick look while we're talking about my albums out in 1975 at the same time. So Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd, huge. Blood on the Tracks, Physical Graffiti. We've got Born to Run, of course. Tonight's Tonight, Neil Young. Horses, Patti Smith. Zuma, Neil Young. So you've got a lot of, I call, really big albums. Night at the Opera, Queen. That's a big album over here.
Yes.
So I think that those albums really kind of overshadowed what Aerosmith are doing, and they're very much very much an American band,
Yeah.
rather than over here, which is seems to be. I would say that's kind of the beginning of that kind of divide. And when I've talked a lot on here about Van Halen not really being a huge band in the UK. They toured the first time with Sabbath, and then they came back for the odd festival, but they didn't really come back and tour. They didn't, we weren't really included in their touring schedules. And I don't know whether they toured Europe much, but so therefore they weren't really big here in that sense at all. Really, not really sort of in the forefront of And I think Aerosmith are the same, maybe a bit before.
They're
Yeah,
very much
not
an
big enough market.
very much an Americanized band and very much an American icon, as were Van Halen. So they were, competitive towards each other throughout the late 70s and whatnot. So there was a bit of, I'd like to say, healthy competition between the bands.
You'd have thought, wouldn't you, that I mean, clearly, there's we've discussed this in more detail, the links with Led Zeppelin. There's kind of that kind of thing. You'd have thought that they might have come here and done pretty well, with that sort of vibe going on, but no, clearly not. Then turn up, but.
So my question to you, Simon, is when's the first time you really discovered Aerosmith and this record? Is it like moving forward into the 90s, 2000s, or is it even now?
No, I've not really. I mean, I don't remember hearing it really. I know some of the songs on it, but I don't remember hearing it as an album until now. To be honest, I don't think It's I've got some later era. I've got in later era stuff, but
That's good, because at least we get a fresher outlook on this. Andrew, how about you? When was the first time you really discovered this record? It was, I mean, I'm assuming with yourself, similar to me, you discovered it going backwards a little bit with Aerosmith.
Yeah, the Rock Professor nailed it with the Run DMC song that they did in '83 or something like that. And I remember a good friend of mine who I was hanging out with, his sister was talking to us about this band called Aerosmith, because we didn't know who Aerosmith was. And the similarity between Aerosmith in England reflects pretty much what was happening here, Simon. Aerosmith were not on the radar with my friends growing up. Now, I'm not saying this is a scientific study. I'm not giving any musical ultimatums here. It's just a personal observation, Brad. So please, do not bash me over the head. It's not a journalistic ultimatum that I'm giving. But
journalistic.
No, it's not. So I could be talking that through completely out through the hole of my ass. But nobody knew Aerosmith here prior to Run DMC. You know, and then we kind of knew that they were a band. Didn't realize that they were rivals in America with Led Zeppelin as an example. We never realized that they were in that category. Brad, it wasn't until Guns N' Roses, when Guns N' Roses hit, and I think you and I spoke about this on one show when we did a bro down, and then Guitar magazines, and then they were talking about, then they re-released the EP, and they did version Mamakin, and then we realized, and then Simon, you had Guitar magazines and music books, and you could go to the light, and then you realized, okay. So it wasn't until, Brad, 88, 89, 90 when I realized, this band was significant. So sorry to bore you with those details. No ultimatums, though.
Mine's very similar to yours, Andrew. Like, I pretty much had heard the Run DMC, Walk This Way, with Steven Tyler and Joe Perry. But then, obviously, about 87, 88, Pump came out whenever that album actually merged. Was when when I got really into Aerosmith because of the link to Guns N' Roses, and then I went backwards from there. So I rediscovered their early material from there.
can I just jump in? You're right. I forgot Pump. When Pump came out, because is that Jamie's Got a Gun and all, and because they were huge on video, great videos, Simon. Again, the incorporation of the video component propelling the music of a band. And then obviously Steven Tyler was a little bit different from, say, the hair metal bands that were sort of around that time, like Poison. You know, this guy had these guys had a bit of attitude. They it wasn't like CC DeVille running around, you know. You know, don't need nothing but a good time. Yeah, you know, they were real
Uncanny,
rock
isn't
and
it? It's
rollers.
uncanny. If you close your eyes, it's uncanny.
Yeah, I would have thought that was Poison straight off the bat.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, they went Poison.
Yeah. Oh, look, they dripped a lot of attitude, 100%. And look, without a doubt, they were a massive influence to like Guns N' Roses, even the dual guitar thing, which we'll discuss moving forward a little bit too. You know, Izzy and Slash were very much like Whitford and Perry. You know, they did the dual guitar panning left and right, and then they crossed over a few little lead lines here and there, but the majority of it would be Slash or Joe Perry, you know, and then Brad Whitford would pick up a bit. Izzy would pick up a bit, but there was a majority. It was they worked really well as a guitar duo, so to speak, and that all came from Aerosmith for Guns N' Roses, without a doubt. Without
Hey, Helene.
But so guys, we'll dive into the rankings. I think we're about 30 minutes into the show.
45.
We haven't got to the rankings yet, so we'll start now. But
Right.
so everyone, I hope you've done your homework. And the album starts off with the title track, "Toys in the Attic," and which is the album title. And wow, what an opening track! I mean, it's blistering from the word go. High energy rock. It's driven quite hard by Joe Perry's blistering guitar riff, and you know, backing it up was Brad Whitford's type of guitar work as well. Eddie Kramer, Joey Kramer, sorry, my apologies. I always say that when I talk about Kramer for some reason. His drumming is so straight.
Fresh from producing Jimi Hendrix, yes.
No, and he plays drums for Aerosmith, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got an amazing ability on the drums, and he propels the song forward. It's got that sort of push in the song. Hamilton's bass is providing that real solid foundation. But here we hear Steven Tyler's vocals. You know, they're aggressive, they're manic, matching the song's chaotic sort of theme of insanity. It's a hard rock classic. You know, I love the guitar solo Joe Perry plays in this song. I'm a huge Joe Perry and Brad Whitford fan. I love their guitar playing, and I love the guitar sound. I mean, the sound of the record is evident from the era. You know, it's recorded in the 70s, this record. I think it's a fantastic opening track. I couldn't imagine the album starting any other way with any other song that's on this record. So 10 out of 10 for me, gentlemen, and never a skip. Have we decided who's going second out of us?
Yeah,
guys?
I'm going second, Brad.
Right.
I'm going second.
All right,
so yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a very, you know, a great opener to albums. Yeah, fast tempo, lots of energy, lots of great guitar sound as well. You know, I think that you know, this is for me one of the great eras of guitar rock sound. You know, it's not processed. It's just, you know, Gibson into a Marshall, Les Paul into a Marshall kind of band, and it sounds fantastic. Really big sound as well. You know, and, back in the days when not everything could be as loud as everything else. So it's you know, really good from that point of view. I like the integrated sound. I think, you know, clearly, I don't know whether they on some of the tracks I think it did build them up a bit, but this sounds like they're, you know, live. Basic tracks all live. Fantastic kind of angry sort of, you know, energetic guitar solo from Joe Perry. Really, you know, but in the same time, in that very 70s kind of rock and roll thing as well, it's got all those rock and roll double stops in it and things, which is, you know, I think I don't mean this is not a detrimental thing, but it's kind of, you know, that I recognise it as a 70s guitar solo for that kind of the way that he plays and stuff, which is
Yeah.
great as far as I'm concerned. That's absolutely fine. um, I think there's, you know, we get into this in more detail, the kind of singing, but the chanted backing vocals and things whilst over the playing, kind of give you a chance. And then you've got the kind of, at the end, you've got the vocals and the guitar in play at the same, you know, playing the same thing. You know, Joe Perry's playing the melody with Steven Tyler's singing, and I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. As I say, great opener. 10 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Absolutely exactly what you want as an opening track of an album. Punchy. Andrew.
Thanks, guys. I just want to make reference to a great comment here from Albert about Kolodner. I hope I pronounced his name right, and he's correct about the guy. If you know anything about this band and also this guy as an A&R man, that was his technique, Brad, to dismiss everything bands brought to him, because that was his technique to try and get something better, which kind of worked a little bit, Simon, for some guys, but at the end of the day was a tactic that backfired, because a lot of the guys he was working with were artistic fellows and girls, and you had to treat these people, because their personalities, I'm going to say it respectfully, were artistic, so you had to you had to treat these people gently. You know, you just couldn't write everything off and say it was crap, come back with something better, when they realised themselves that they thought they were presenting something good, Brad. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Good point. Good point, Albert.
That's a really good
I
point.
don't.
Thank you for that.
I know who he is, but I don't know if he was around with this album. I think he came the album after, but we can check that out though. But yeah, going third, guys. As I said to you at the intro, I became aware of this band a little bit and their legacy from the 80s onwards, Simon. And, you know, you read a few books and you hear a few comments other guitar players or other musicians make about this band. This song was the quintessential quintessential American rock song in the mid-70s. This was the defining song for a lot of bands, Brand, that I didn't know. I had, you know, and when I heard that from like I can't remember the guitar players, but you know who they are. We all know who they are. That said, this album and this song was hugely important. Then I realised, oh, there had to be something about this band or this album, you know. And you get it with this opening track. You guys have nailed it on the head, you know. It was a band that 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds and, you know, early 20-year-olds were listening to. There was something there. And musically, we get it. That guitar tone, Brad and Simon, that you spoke about, it's powerful. The rhythm section is powerful. You can hear everything, Simon. You can hear everything on this track. Nothing is disguised, and it gets better and better later on. And you've got that, as you said, Brad, you know, that distinctive vocal style, which isn't quite, he still sings, but it's not quite that high style that we get with the album that comes after this. You know, he's still kind of singing, which I remember the first time I heard this album, Simon, years ago, I'm thinking, this is not the Steve... this is not the Tyler that I'm listening to on Pump. Completely different set of vocals. And I like it, Brad. I like these vocals because he is singing. He's not pushing it. Which is no ultimatum about whether I like Pump or not. I'm not making any ultimatums there. I'm just making a little judgment.
Yes.
So
10 out of 10. Great opening track.
Just answering Albert's thing about John Kolodner. John Kolodner was involved on, what is it? Done with Mirrors. That's his first point of contact with Aerosmith.
Yes.
Right.
Basically, they said that he rescued them as a band, but
and that was the album. That was 2 albums
first
after
album,
this. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, at least two. This is 85, so it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that? 8 years later. But
Yeah.
so John Colonna was not around for the for this early part of Aerosmith's career. He was in for the later part.
Which is why it
Does-
sounds good.
Yeah, he does admit that he has no no man management. My man management skills are very poor, but the music he gets made is usually worth it. He says, when a record comes out, I suspect most people try to forget they dealt with me at all. Well, he recognises, who he is or who he isn't.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, well,
fantastic.
guys, I think we're all on the same wavelength with the opening track, but we come to the second track, Uncle Salty, and it's a bluesy mid-tempo track with a dark tone. I think Brad Whitford's guitar parts provide that moody, sort of understated riff, while Joe Perry adds a bit of a haunting effect. It's got like a slide effect or something going on there as well. Steve Tyler's vocal has that real sense of melancholy, and I believe he's using a bass marimba as well, which adds a bit of texture to the song. The song's theme is like child neglect and abuse is mirrored in that sort of instrumentation. It's a sleazy song. The feel of the song is very sleazy. For me, this song, back in the day when I first got into this record, I sometimes skipped this track because it wasn't quite the Aerosmith that I was wanting to hear, because I was obviously going backwards from Pump. And I was like, I don't know, if I connect with this song enough. But over the years, I've really sort of obviously, let's say, reconnected with this record a little bit more, especially this week. And I rank it 8 out of 10, guys, and they're a skip. It's a great second track. I think it maybe could have been a fourth or fifth track maybe on the album instead of second, but hey, I'm not going to argue with Steven Tyler and Aerosmith because they'll come beat me up. So great.
Bro.
8 out of,
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
8 out of 10 though. I give it an 8 out of 10 and never skip, guys. Simon.
Well done.
I don't want them coming to beat me up,
No.
So
No.
Coming at this completely fresh.
No ultimatum.
This is of course "Feel Like a Woman" by Shania Twain.
Oh,
The riff and that dun, 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 dun. It bloody is. It's like you can sing along the whole blooming verse of Shania Twain to this. No, I'm not saying she got it from here, but she got it from here.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to hear it any other way now, Simon.
No, I know. Well, that was my problem straight away. It's like, yeah, wait a minute. This feels like a woman by Shania Twain. Well, clearly they came first. So I'm not suggesting that she got it from Aerosmith, but she got it from Aerosmith. Okay, yeah. But yeah, the whole verse structure and the going down, going down to the next. I don't know if it's in E, then you go down to D for the end bit. It's just like it's the same. The chorusy bit isn't, but yeah, the whole verse bit is like. And once, of course, I've heard it because I'm coming at it the other way. You see, so because I'm like, wait a minute, smelling a rat. But but why? It's it's a great riff. It's a great great melodic piece, and it's fantastic. And the fact that I have a later association with it is, let's not cloud the the issue with that, with my sort of backwards history look at it. But it's a great look. It's got that pick guitar, which is a fantastic hook in it. It's got a nice bluesy solo, really cool bluesy solo that fits, and the harmonies as well. I'd say some great harmonies on it. I think, I don't know whether does Steven Tyler do all the singing, probably. Backing vocals, so he does backing vocals, and so Joe Perry does the backing vocals, but it sounds to me like mainly Steven Tyler doing it. Really good, really give it some color, and also great bass playing as well. I really like the bass lines on it. They're really good too. So I, in contrast, have given it a 9 out of 10. Not a skip. Absolutely not. It's you know, as I say, I don't think that, you know, that because I associate it with Feels Like a Woman is that's a good thing, not a bad thing, and you know, they did it first, so they deserve all the credit. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you. If Shania Twain didn't hear the song, certainly, and Albert's made the comment here, Mutt Lang did, and ripped
Indeed.
the ripped the riff off. Go and listen to it. And I remember it being a discussion in '97 or '98 when it came out with a lot of people. That was one of the the constructive criticisms that people were making about the album because it was such a huge album when it came out. And I don't know what Aerosmith did. I didn't do any research, but I have to back the Rock Professor up there. It is a rip-off. And that's no reflection on why I've given this song to, like Brad and Alan, an 8 out of 10. I think I would have skipped this song too, Brad. I think I would have skipped it back in the day when I was listening to it. And I just want to make one other little comment too, which is a continuation of the first observation I made about Stephen's vocals. He's not shouting on this track. He's a wonderful singer. He's singing this track wonderfully well. But would I skip it now, bro? No way.
No.
But 8 out of 10. It's hard to back up, you know, a 10 out of 10. Brad.
Yeah, I agree with you, gentlemen. Third track, Adam's Apple.
You got
it. This track blends rock with a funky groove. It's got a catchy guitar riff from Joe Perry and a solid rhythm work from Whitford. Hamilton's bass adds like a really solid, deep groove, and Kramer's drumming is tight, rhythmic. It's got a great guitar solo, and the interplay with the guitar players is really good on this song. Tyler's voice is playful. He adds a bluesy touch. He's got his harmonica in there as well. He's a fantastic harp player. He's amazing.
yeah.
We even discussed that on the recent Slash blues record where he plays on Killing Floor harmonica. It's incredible. And everything that Steven Tyler does complements the song. And his song, it's got a little bit of a humorous retelling of the story of Adam and Eve in this lyrical content. You know, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty funny. It's a sleazy blues rocker. I gave it 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip, gentlemen. Simon.
Yeah, it's got that slide drift to open it, and then it, because I can't stop myself from, you know, it's all about the association. I keep hearing White Punks on Dope by the Tubes as a thing, which is not a bad thing because White Punks on Dope is a great song, but Tubes are amazing. Saw them live once. You know, people dressed up as cigarettes and kind of stuff. It's quite wild, but for the late 70s. But yeah, I'm basically I do that kind of stunted guitar under the singing for the first 3 lines, and then they do full chords for the 4th line, which is really good. I really like that as an arrangement thing. You kind of have a tension thing, and then you get a release on the 4th line. That's really good. As you said, it's got a great melody. It's also a really good example of 2 guitars playing complementary things, isn't it? This is the first time where you clearly hear that the Whitford and Perry playing complementary things together.
Yeah,
they kind of play some bits together, same bits, and then they harmonize and things, which is great. And I think they, one of the earlier groups to be doing this, as a thing. And it sounds really good, and it's really good melodically, really good, from interest sake and dynamics as well. It's you've got the kind of stop-start chords at the end, and then some nice feedback as well, which is never a bad thing in my books. 8.5 out of 10, never a skip. Great third track, really good. Like it a lot.
Cool.
Andrew.
Oh, I'm out on my own here, folks. I think the intro on this track is fantastic. I love the guitars and the way that the bass locked in on this track after the previous track. It's such a pleasure, Brad, to hear it. And, I think it's a great song. It's definitely a song. Maybe it's the song that should have started after the first song. I don't know. I just think the way that those guitars, as the rock professor and you have mentioned, the two dual guitars, and again, we're going to speak about this a lot, and we've spoken about a lot on the channel with the Allman Brothers with the two guitars, Fleetwood Mac with the two guitars, this band here with the two guitars that we've made reference to when we've spoken about other bands that have two guitars, two guitar attack. And, this is definitely one of the albums that gave you that for you to sort of digest, Brad, and go away and listen to, but also, school and bring up another generation of guitar players having that two guitar attack. Guns N' Roses did it, and one of the reasons why is because they talked about this band being influential in having that tone that you're looking for. The interweaving, Simon, that we spoke about, the interweaving of the guitars. And when you sit and listen to on your iPods or earbuds, Brad, you can sort of pick up, what's going on. I think it's a great song. I love the guitar solo, Brad. I've given this a 10 out of 10.
Maybe I underscored it.
I think you have, bro.
Maybe we did, yeah.
Go and check that intro out, bro. It's cooking.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna dive back into it and have a listen to it. And think about it. It's interesting when we do these shows, some points get brought up and it makes you want to go back and listen to it. So that's good. I'm definitely gonna do that.
Helene's given it 8 out of 10. So she knows who Aerosmith. So you guys might be on track then.
No, well, put up a few points. I'm gonna go have another listen to it. So, but you know what I mean. You come from the last track and you put it up against a track like the next one, "Walk This Way." It's going from that to "Walk This Way." It's hard to go before this track really. And as you know, we rank all these songs on the albums as per against the songs on the album. And this is "Walk This Way." I mean, what a absolute killer song. It starts off with that really sort of syncopated drumming from Kramer. It's just phenomenal. It already sets a groove before the guitar riff comes in, and then the whole song is built around that Joe Perry iconic riff. There's funk, there's rock in it, there's blues in it. It's influenced in so many ways, and Whitford provides a sharp rhythm guitar to it as well. Hamilton's bass, it's solid. He's right in there, the pocket. And he's right behind that crisp drumming and funky rhythm from Kramer. Steve Tyler's rapid fire vocal delivery. He's mimicking the rhythm of the instruments, actually. It's got that seamless blend of rock and funk. You've got to give it to Steven Tyler. The chorus on this, the way he sings it, it's different to the Run DMC version. I like this version better. I like it better than what he did later, even though what he did later was great with Run DMC. But his vocal ability was really stretched on this album at times. But I think as the years went on, his vocals increased and he got to a point where he could do more, charismatic acrobats. Not saying that he could sing high and do amazing stuff, but he had this charismatic thing that he used to do, all that stuff and all that. Like he used to do a lot more of that later. But this song gets there. It's almost starting. You can hear that it's evolving, and it's a fantastic melody. The vocal melody is fantastic. The lyrics are fantastic. It's an absolute belting classic rock song, in my opinion, with a fantastic guitar solo for Joe Perry. This is my first 100 out of 10 on the album, and let me tell you, this track is an absolute Aerosmith classic and an all-time classic rock song, in my opinion. It's 100 out of 10 and never a skip. Never, ever, ever a skip. Simon.
Your mum has given it 8 out of 10. I'm just,
I'm out.
just saying.
I'm out.
Lobbing her in massively. Terrible. Look at that. Look at that. See? God,
I
8
didn't
out of
see.
10.
I didn't see that.
Boom.
That's
Shots
a
fired.
timeout. That's a timeout, Ellen Toll.
Sorry, I'm just being troublemaking now. Troublemaking in the back, inter-family troublemaking. Williams is stirring it up, sir. Stop him. There's not much more to be said than you've said. I mean, it is an absolute classic, isn't it? As you say, the Run D, the Den with Run D. You can see why it fitted so beautifully with the Run DMC thing because of that. Because the vocals are kind of half spoken, they have that great swing to them that really fits in with the rap thing. It's a kind of almost a proto rap song in many ways with the way that Steven Tyler's delivery of the lyrics is. It's we all know it. It's got a fantastic riff. It's got a fantastic swing to it as well in terms of the rhythm section. Do a fantastic job. It's got a fantastic guitar solo, and I just love it. I love things like goes into the second guitar solo and Steven Tyler says, "Just give me a kiss," and then they start doing the guitar solo. It's like it's all those little things that lead singers say when their guitarist is about to do a long solo or whatever solo. That kind of thing. So
So
I love that.
I'm just going to touch on a point you brought up.
Yeah, go on.
I think it's a very important part. Sorry to butt in and interfere with your ranking.
Oh,
but
interfere away.
No, you've just brought up a really big point that I overlooked. This song may have been innovative for rap music in a sense with the beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for the sense of what Run DMC have done with it later, you hear this beat a lot in rap music. So it could have played a heavy part in the introduction of rap music to the world. So there you go. Sorry to interrupt there, Simon, but I wanted to.
No, it's fine. I'm glad it
elaborate.
triggered something. That's the idea. Is if it triggers something, then butt in or butt in away.
I try not to normally do that, but anyway.
Oh, it's fine. It's hard. I think that's quite right. It becomes a conversation then about it, which is the important bit as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I think the guitar solo at the end starts off with those simple ascending notes, and then it gets more complicated as it goes on. It's double tracked as well to the end. Some sort of production values in it. But you can't get past it. It's a classic, isn't it? But I too have given it 100 out of 10. Unlike some people. Sorry, Ellen. Sorry, I behaved myself. But absolutely never escape. That's just the thrill every time it comes on. Yeah. Andrew, get me out of this.
No, look, I agree with you guys, and it's one of the things that you have to put up with when you come third. You're going to be repeating things that have already been said, but yeah, it was my first. The song, the Run DMC version, Brad, was my first foray into this band, Aerosmith, and we knew back then because we were listening to the guitar players. Back then, we were Van Halen fans. And when that guitar came in, we knew this guitar player, didn't know who he was pretty good, and then, to see, Steve Tyler, in his standard stage costume was pretty cool as well. And then to discover it on this album, it's like, wow. But I have to agree with you. Tom and Joey, the rhythm section on this song just nail it. And that, how many times do we talk about how a rhythm section are so important in providing that beat for that quintessential rock riff that you've spoken about, Brad? That rock riff by Perry wouldn't have been anything without these two guys giving you that foundation. And after listening to this for a couple of days this week, I haven't given, especially Joey Kramer, enough recognition in my own mind for being such an important drummer. So again, one of the reasons why we like doing this is because it alerts us to an ingredient or a component of a band, Simon, you know, that you
Yeah.
kind of know, but you haven't paid much attention to, and it's like, actually, this guy's pretty good, you know, well, this girl's pretty good. So that's that's when I've realised that this bass and drum component of this band are pretty hot, Brad. It's got everything. You guys have said it. I'm not going to add anything other than give you my score. You got to go and check this version out. It's a shame on classic radio they play the Run DMC version all the time. I would like maybe they should do 50-50. It would be really good if they played this version on some of the classic radio stations, because this is where it started, you know. Yeah, but I agree with you with Run DMC, you know, how these guys, quote unquote, ripped off riffs. You know, we saw it with Funky Cold Medina, you know, Ice Bay. You know, these guys were doing it a lot in the 90s and the late 80s, weren't they, Simon? And they went on, and besides making millions for themselves, Brad, they made millions for the original artists too. So just got to remember that. People were clipping the tickets. Everybody was getting a bite of the apple, Simon.
Everyone, see, and get a second bite at the apple. It was recorded in 75, and
that's
and
right.
you're recording it in 90. See, it's a second bite of the apple, and a huge one
big
as well.
Bite of the apple.
And I think that I would say it's to Run DMC's credit that they had Aerosmith in the video with them, and they had that kind of funny battle, you know, kicking the studio walls down and all that. It's brilliant, you know. Brilliant.
That battle though was real life. That was because I was hanging out with guys who were rappers, listening to rap, and they would give us shit because we were metalers, and we would give them shit because they were rappers. Yeah. That was real life, Brad.
Yeah.
But I bet you that everyone rushed out and bought those shoes that Run DMC wore in that film.
Everybody does.
And a black Levi's jacket and those black Levi's. They look pretty cool.
Yes.
And you didn't have to dance. You just had to make, you know, sort of step in time. And anyway, Brad's score.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, it's a song that, you know, I think has remained in their set list at every single show, and I think they'll be absolutely crucified if they never played that song live. So, guys, we're I think we've got one more song before the end of side one. Am I correct there?
Right.
So we might do this one, and then we might show some pictures if you've got some there to show, Andrew, and then we'll continue on. So, from a song like "Walk This Way," I mean, what can you follow that with the end side one? I mean, it's very hard, in my opinion, to follow a song like that with another rocker. So you've got to pretty much change the direction of what you're going to put straight after that. And they did it really, really well with this song. Big 10-inch record, it's called, and it's a cover of an R&B novelty song called 10-inch record. It's got a fun swing-inspired track. Perry and Whitford deliver that bluesy, jazzy guitar sound that's going on there. Hamilton and Kramer keep the rhythm section light and bouncy. Steven Tyler's vocals are very playful. You know, he plays piano in this track as well, adds a touch of that ragtime feel to the mix. It's a lively and humorous break in the album, I've put, and I gave it 7.5 out of 10, guys. And used to be a skip, I'll admit, back in the day, but I see the relevance to this record and where it sits now. You know, in ranking albums over the last couple of years that we've been doing this or more, you start to realize the importance of a track like this on a record to break it up and highlight other tracks as well. So 7.5 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised by this, to be honest. Having not, as I say, you go through that, listening it, and then you've got this classic kind of jump jive 50s record. You go, wait a minute, that's something of a leap from Walk This Way. But they've done it pretty much dead on with the original. I listened to the Bull Moose Jackson original, and there's not a huge amount of difference, but they've got horns on it, they've got that boogie woogie piano on it, they've got, but of course the thing that it has that clearly, and I think one of the things that I talked a bit about here on it is that 1975 is only 20 years after rock and roll. It's like it's still pretty close. It's like taking something from 2004 and doing it now. It's feels like yesterday. So, and a lot of those bands did like rock and roll stuff at the end and things. So, and I think there was much more of a connection between the rock and roll era and this than there is now, kind of thing, which is clearly pretty much died out as a nobody would be referencing it much in there. Whereas on these records, Led Zeppelin did rock and roll and all sort of thing, and would have bits of the Everly Brothers and other rock and roll songs in in their long versions of Dazed and Confused and things. So there is a massive precedent for having that kind of rock and roll thing on your records. And apparently they were doing it. They did it for fun, and the producer Jack Douglas said, "Let's record it. It sounds like fun," and so they did it as a kind of And I think it's probably the only way to get past Walk This Way, as as a thing. It's just a complete contrast and something completely different. That you're not really going to associate the two things. You're not really going to compare them. So this is kind of light jump jive, lots of fun. And of course it's got all the innuendo that Steven Tyler would just love as a lyrical content. I mean, exactly the timing. It's like my big 10-inch records. Makes me laugh every time I'm such a twit. But so I understand completely why they put it here. I understand completely what the contrast is with the previous song. I think it's lots of fun, and I would never skip it. It's just, as I say, I'm a sucker for a boogie woogie piano. Don't get past that unless cool horns. It is a 7.5 out of 10 for sure, but it's never a skip, and it's great fun as a song, and and to make me laugh, still makes me laugh. Childish. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with what Helen says here. It's got a jazzy style, got that rockabilly, well, that rock and roll kind of boogie woogie. Yeah, I love it. And, back in the day, Brad, I would have backed you up there. I would have skipped this back in the day because I wasn't kind of interested in this kind of music. I didn't realize the significance of this music in its totality, but I like it now and I appreciate it. And it's just another example of how these guys were listening to this music, and it was influential, and probably them playing 3 or 4 of these songs would have been easy peasy, Simon. They would have started out playing these songs in their first bands, guys, so this is nothing. But I have to agree with you. I've made a point here about what do you follow up the other song with, and this is the perfect song. This is the perfect song for following up Walk This Way. And because of that, it's a smart move. And, I think that's worth a point. I would have given it 7 out of 10, Brad. I give it 8 out of 10. It's never a skip. But in the day, bro, it was.
Yeah.
We're all pretty much on par this time, which is good. So, yeah. But so far, I mean, phenomenal first side to an album. Imagine putting this on for the first time on LP on the player and just listening to it going like, wow. I remember the first time I heard this record, I was pretty blown away. So these are some of the pictures that Andrew's uploaded, which I unfortunately sent last minute to Andrew. I apologize in advance. But that's the album cover there.
It's okay. I just want to make an observation, bro. See the orange, and notice how I've made this point many, many times, and every time I see it, that's one of the reasons why we picked orange as our channel color, because there's so many albums that have that orange color, bro, and this is another example of one. Sorry, bro.
No, that's a valid point, Andrew, because when it comes to graphic design and stuff for promoting, they always say reds and yellows are very important, eye-catching. So it's a very valid point, Andrew. Very valid point. But it's an interesting cover. You know what I mean? It's got the band on the back there around the attic toy chest. That's very cool. That's the CD album cover, obviously, but it's not side A, side B on it, but it's an interesting cover. The first time I looked at the album cover, I was a little bit sort of like, I don't know. Maybe it was just, but you have to imagine what album covers were like in the 70s as well. You know what I mean? So it would have stood out. So this is Aerosmith around that time frame, right? Like that mid 70s sort of, so you can see they play pretty tight together. Obviously, over the years, the stages got bigger. They spread out a bit, but you can see they're almost on top of each other there.
What you mean is as they got on with each other less, they spread out more.
As I started to, probably punch on a little bit more. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously that's a pretty cool one there you put in there, Andrew. It's great. Pulse Theatre.
Look at that. Did you see that? Did you see how much the tickets were? Can you go back and see how much the tickets were? $4.50.
Wow. So you can see the boys there. Tom Hamilton there on the left, Steven Tyler, Joey Kramer, Joe Perry, and Brad Whitford there. So there are, let's just say there are a motley crew looking sort of bunch, aren't they? They got that long hair, 70s rocker vibe. You can see they influenced that look for bands in the 80s 100%. You know what I mean?
Except Brad Whitford, who seems to look like a hobbit. That hat.
Look, the dynamic duo of Tyler and Perry were obviously they were out the front sort of, trending, like the Zeppelin Page and Plant out front. They were sort of like the two out the front, really pushing the band, while the other three were not so interested in probably doing that. They were more interested in just playing. And I mean, you got to give credit to Brad Whitford as an amazing guitarist, and he sat back as a rhythm guitar player for a lot of the album. But he shines on this record and moving forward. And that's a great picture of Joe Perry with his Les Paul there. He's custom, black custom, and another one there, Steven Tyler and Perry. But you can see that they were a Marshall sort of Les Paul or Gibson or Strat sort of sounding band. They had that sort of thing. Travis Bean, I think Joe Perry played a Travis Bean for slide and a few different styles of guitars throughout their career, but back then it was pretty the basics, I think, which a lot of rock bands were using back there gear-wise. And,
what much was there? 1975, there wasn't much you could get, Univibe.
You listen to the songs on this record, and we're getting to the next song, which obviously is a really big guitar sound. It's probably the biggest guitar sound on the record as well. So thanks for showing those, Andrew. That's great.
Yeah, I just want to make a point about the rest of the band. These guys are from Boston. They played together for a while. They were a tight unit, and the rhythm section guys, they knew their role. They knew where they were situated in the band, and so there were no egos. There were no ego problems with this band, and that's one of the reasons why they had that collective cohesiveness. I think, Simon, that a lot of bands kind of didn't have. They enjoyed hanging out with each other. Led Zeppelin, for example, were famous there towards the mid-70s of not hanging out with each other unless they were doing work, But this band enjoyed hanging out with each other. And, when you've got a rhythm section and a guitar player who realizes, well, look, I'm going to play rhythm, but I'm going to take some lead breaks because Brad is the hot guitar player, well, then the problem solved.
But I'll give Brad Whitford credit. Like a lot of the songs that he plays some really amazing guitar parts. And moving forward into their career, like their album 9 Lives, the opening track 9 Lives on the record, Brad Whitford's guitar playing on that, it's all him playing all the solos, and it's phenomenal. It actually sounds very similar to Joe Perry's style. So their styles got closer to each other as well.
Kind of had to. bro. Kind of had to as well. You know, I'm not pretending to be an Aerosmith expert, but Joe wasn't feeling well for a while there too. You know, so you know, when you've got band members, Simon, that can sort of step up and kind of take that lead, and we've seen that with a lot of bands, you know, take the lead because they've got to get this project done. Or again, all credit to the guy because he knew what he needed to do because it fitted in with the band. Well done, bro. Good point. Good point, Brad.
Yeah, great points. So the next track, guys, without deviating too much more, is "Sweet Emotion," and by golly, what a song to start side 2 on. "Sweet Emotion" begins with that distinctive sort of bass line Tom Hamilton had, and I believe he might have come up with it from the previous record, and they just hadn't got there. Steven Tyler hadn't got there with the song and that, and I'm glad that they finally on this record got to work on this song. And that intro of the song with the bass, and you know, obviously Joe Perry's use of the talk box, that's a big signature thing for Joe Perry, talk box. It gives it a bit of a psychedelic sort of edge, I reckon. Whifford's rhythm guitar playing is complementary on this one, like we've been saying. There's a lot of groove in the rhythm guitar playing as well. Kramer's drumming on this is syncopated, it's solid, it's straightforward. And then when they do the he's really giving it everything he's got on the drums there. It's phenomenal. That riff is so powerful. And then the way it goes from that into the sweet emotion, the way it moves throughout the dips and everything without the song. There's so much contrast in what's going on there. This song is what I call the perfect written rock song. It's got everything that the song requires. The verses are solid. They're driving. Lets the vocalists give everything they've got throughout the verses. The chorus, the lead up to the chorus there is powerful. Then the chorus drops back and the melody becomes the focus of the song. And I think this song is one of the most perfectly written rock songs of all time, without a doubt. Steve Tyler's vocals are smooth in the choruses, laid back. He's adding a really syncopated thing going on there as well during the verses with the guitars. And I mean, those guitars are driving, and that guitar tone is absolutely phenomenal. Song. I put here Tyler's vocals are timeless, incredible, brilliantly executed, and the backing vocals are phenomenal. The guitar tone's tough as nails. Great guitar solos from Joe Perry. This is an absolute classic rock song, without a doubt. It's 100 out of 10 and never a skip, guys. Simon.
Yeah, it has lots of things going on in this, doesn't it? A lot of stuff in 4.5 minutes. I think that, you know, that kind of the stuff at the beginning is a very psychedelic vibe. It's a very dreamy psychedelic vibe, but it also has that kind of, you know, with quite trippy vocals and things, but reminded me very much of like the Manchester sound, you know, of the 90s, you know, the Stone Roses and things like. You can see the Stone Roses doing this sort of thing completely, you know, all the Happy Mondays, you know, making whole albums that sound like the first bit of this. And I think that the drum beat is that 90s kind of, you know, drum beat, that Manchester drum beat that now everybody uses and things, but it's you know, I don't know if there's any earlier, but this must be a really early version of it. So he came up with it. Hats off to him for doing that, because it's and then, as you say, it's got the kind of rock bit, and that guitar that comes in is just amazing sounding, isn't it? You know, whoever recorded that is a 10 out of 10 for starters. You know, just that bit. And then the juxtaposition between that kind of that big rock feel and the psychedelic, you know, dreamy, trippy stuff is fantastic, I think. And as you say, and then you've got the two guitars playing the riff together, and you've got this like voice box they use, don't they, for dynamics kind of things. Not like right up front; it's kind of in the mix. and stuff, and they got that bit at 3:30 where they go into different kind of heavier chords for the solo sort of thing, you know, different parts and things, keep it dynamically interesting. Yeah, it's a really great track, and I've played it a lot this week, and it's definitely 100 out of 10, and never a skip. A fantastic opener to side two, and I think with those, as I say, those sort of 90s, the portents for the 90s kind of thing makes it, gives it extra. So yeah, 100 out of 10 for me, never a skip. Andrew.
Thanks, guys. We've got 17, 18 people watching us. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Hey.
If you're an hour and 20 in and you have not already subscribed, please do. Brad, this is the best song on the album, and they've buried this song right in the middle, in the center of the album. I'm glad that you mentioned a lot of things in your discussion of this song. It's a clever song. It's a smart song. It's a song of guys who clearly know their craft, and they've worked it out. This is their third album, isn't it?
Yep.
This is their third album. So,
Yes.
so they say that's when the pressure is on. The pressure is on a band to produce. You know, you can come out with a masterpiece first album. They kind of expect a shitty album for your second album, but the third album is where they want something that's a game changer. And they've done that because they've included all the ingredients that rock and roll songs have to have, that were really, really important back then and even now in 2024. You guys have mentioned, the harking back to the beginning of rock and roll with that sort of psychedelic feel. Very smart, very clever, and then break it down to kind of different sections in the song, an A section and a B section and a C section, all in 4.5 minutes. Go and check out live versions or live recordings of this song, especially around this period.
Yeah.
Phil's made a comment of them using it as an encore in 2013. They've done really, really good versions later on, but go and check out some of the live versions, and you get blown away with the two guitar players. The way that they're playing this, it's just phenomenal what they do. And they're only just using, Brad, their volume. It's just remarkable. The talk box, you mentioned that. His talk box technique is very subtle. It's very clever, isn't it? It's not like right there. It's not like Richie Sambora or Peter Frampton. It's it's sort of just like bubbling under, isn't it? It's like, what's he saying, Simon?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's fantastic, but that kind of subtle piece of coloration and not up front, Yeah, cool.
And it's not about what he's saying, but we want to know what he's saying. It's all about the sound. It's all about it's not about what he's saying, but you want to know what. I remember being blown away by it when I heard it, because another album we were listening to at this time that was really hot was Slippery When Wet, and Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora had a couple of songs on that album that would, so the talk box was a big thing, bro. Back then, it was a big thing. But I just love the way that he's done it. I've given this a huge score.
Yes, a huge score. Hugh's in the chat. Morning, Hugh. There you go. Back with a huge score.
Well done.
Yeah.
Very, very good point you brought up with the talk box there, Andrew. I think Slash mimics Joe Perry's style on the talk box a lot. Anything goes on their debut album. And then obviously moving forward, Slash has used the talk box from time to time on records. And very Joe Perry vibes, very. But as you know, and everyone knows, probably on this channel at least, that Slash and Joe Perry formed a friendship throughout the years, and there's a little we won't waste time now, but the Les Paul story, I think we might have discussed it once or twice on the channel, but it's Joe Perry hocking his Les Paul, and Slash end up getting it and then giving it back to Joe Perry many years later for his birthday, which is very cool. So
well done.
Yeah,
well done.
Yeah, very cool. All right,
that's
guys.
Right. Yes, that's right. He did, didn't he? Yeah.
It was a big thing too in the guitar community when Slash did that. Everyone thought, "Oh, this guy's the nicest guy in rock and roll," and I couldn't agree more. couldn't agree more. But yeah, very good point you brought up, Andrew, with the talk box. I thought that was very valid. So we come to the next track. Oh, you isolated me. I haven't done. I don't want to. I don't want to be isolated, Andrew. Please.
Just keep going with the songs. Just keep going with the songs, Brad.
I've got. I don't want to be isolated, and I don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to tell people off.
Requesting isolation.
Oh, okay. All right.
Take me off. Isolate.
Okay. All right. You're gonna have to model that jacket though before we end the show.
I don't know why you did that. I'm panicked because I thought you wanted me to yell at someone, but I'm not.
No. I want you to model that jacket.
Oh, okay, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yona says, "Did you buy it?" Yona says, "Did you buy it in Europe?"
Actually, this one I bought in another country, Bali, a couple of years ago.
Bali.
Yeah. And this one, yeah, it's made in Italy though. That's for sure.
Good.
What are we talking about here, guys?
Sorry, no more.
Yeah,
We're on to no more.
I've lost the isolate.
I don't mind doing. I don't mind doing a leather jacket show. I've got a couple of leather jackets. We can talk about our leather jackets. Yeah.
I was wearing it for lunch, and we had a really beautiful day here in Melbourne, so the jacket came off. But then when I got home, I put it on to keep myself warm, and I thought, I'm going to go on the show wearing the jacket. I've done it once before. I'm going to do it again.
Did you walk around with it, Brad, with your thumb hooked over your shoulder like that?
Oh yeah, I had to. The James Dean.
Always. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I've lost train of thought. No more. I'm going to tell you.
Sorry, no more.
Andrew, no more isolate. No more isolate. We don't do that here. Not in a 51. All right. This song is a ripper. I love this song. And there's a very cool version of this that Velvet Revolver did later on as well. So go and have a listen to that on Spotify. It's a great song. This is about the rigors of life on the road. Joe Perry's lead guitar work on this is very melodic, expressive, and Woodford's rhythm guitar work on this anchors the song. That you're really hearing the distinctive two guitar parts on this album started to come to the forefront of this band. Tom Hamilton's bass and Kramer's drumming provide that solid, steady rhythm. It's a driving song, like it's got a driving sort of feel to the song. Steven Tyler's vocals are emotive. His piano playing adds a little bit of depth and a touch of melancholy sort of vibe to the song, especially in the song's bridge. I'm hearing slight country vibes at the start of the song. Deviates off that, but there's a slight country vibe throughout the song. And I'll put here some great backing vocals. Previously, this song would have got maybe a 7.5, 8 for me, but the rebirth of it for Velvet Revolver, made me fall in love with this song again. And listening to it this week, I've ranked it 9 out of 10, guys, and never a skip. It's a phenomenal track. Simon.
Yeah, that electroacoustic bit at the beginning that he plays almost reminded me of Rush in a funny kind of way. That kind of descending, big kind of electroacoustic sounds. That's fantastic. It sounds really good. I mean, it sounds amazing that as a thing. And then you go into the electric bit, and you've got the boogie piano as well. Oh, I'm a sucker for a boogie piano. I think this is, there's a lot in this song. There's a lot going on in it, isn't there? You've got a slower harmony section before it goes back into the riff, and you've got that great groove that's in the verses and things. And you've got the harmony section as the contrast bit between those, and then you've got like 2 minutes 25. You've got a new guitar comes in, playing a new part. It's kind of change the dynamics of it completely, keep the interest going, and I love the way that when the solo comes in at 2:53, it kind of comes in quite hesitantly, doesn't it? It's sort of like, ooh, what I mean, oh, it's me, before he kind of gets going. And I like the fact that they left that and they didn't go back and go, just play a bit more confidently with you. So I like the fact they're kind of like, there's this kind of, isn't there? There is a kind of slight kind of like hesitation in that first note or two, isn't there, before he really gets going in it. And he does get going fantastically. But it's great solo and all that. Yeah, really nice contrast with the previous, track as well. Again, with the electroacoustic as well, you're broadening the sound palette out to include new things. Because first side has not got any acoustic stuff on it, as far as I could tell. So I gave it 8.5 out of 10 as it's got to follow Sweet Emotion, which is quite hard work, but I think it does it really successfully. 8.5 out of 10 for me, and never a skip.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Yeah, I'm glad Brad mentioned
Velvet Revolver.
sorry, I was going to say Slash a Snake, but
Same.
Velvet. Yeah, same thing. Velvet Revolver version, and I'm glad that you mentioned the country thing here. And I've made a note, and I see Helen has made the connection too. Got a
That's
bit of a Stonesy sort of vibe from Exile on Main Street.
Yeah.
Kind
100%.
of. Yeah, and
Great observation, Helene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when I first kind of heard this album and remembered, guys making comparisons to, Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and Aerosmith being an American version of these bands, you can kind of see why. Certainly live anyway. But this is, from a recording perspective, certainly one of those clues and one of those golden nuggets. And it's definitely a deep cut, Brad, for me now. You mentioned that, may have been skippable, back in the day. I think it may have been too, for me back in the day too, without sort of seeing all these threads, Simon, and realising how important they are. Now we can hear them and see them and feel them and taste them, and we wouldn't dare skip them. But, if we're being honest, 30 years ago when we're listening to this, we're listening for different things.
Yeah.
So one of the great things about, going back, checking out these albums, it's like, yeah, you can see the tapestry. Love the solo. It's a cool solo. And it's the perfect song. It's not a filler for the previous song, Brad and Simon. And when I heard this for the second and third time this week, I thought, this band's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good album, the way they've done it. I've given it 9 out of 10 too. I like a lot of us in the chat. We've got our friend Wolfgang 5150 from Japan. So what do you say? What's konnichiwa?
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa to our brother in Japan.
Nice.
It's a great 5150 show.
Is that GRATE or GREAT?
We've spoken about him many times on our show,
Very
folks.
kind.
Go and check him out, please. But Brad, 9 out of 10, and never a skip, bro. Love the song, love it.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? And Hugh, it's not blasphemy to call Aerosmith harder rocking than the Stones. I don't want to get in arguments here, but for me, that's 100% true. Yeah.
No.
Respectfully.
See my comment. They might rock harder, but not rock and roll.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Stones got the roll.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Look, we're all brothers and sisters here. We all think the same way, so it's all good.
No ultimatums. There's no ultimatums, Hugh.
Hey, Andrew, next week you've got to do no isolations.
No isolations. Yeah, no ultimatums. Yes.
Please, let's just stay on the bitumen. Let's not go down the dirt track no more.
Come
on. Okay, so we're
round
up to
and round.
Song 8, round and round. We're going round and round here, guys. We're going round and round. Round and round. Great song. Yeah, this is probably the heaviest track on the album. Verging on heavy metal, in my opinion. Some very Black Sabbath vibes going on here, without a doubt. There's that influence there. Brad Whitford's lead guitar work here is dark and powerful. It's got that chugging sort of riff as well. Joe Perry's playing rhythm on this track, and he complements that really, really well. He's got a very thick sound. and both guitar players have got a very distorted sound. Hamilton's bass is menacing and deep, and Kramer's drumming is, well, he's playing thunderous on this track. He's playing really hard and going for it. It's got a Steven Tyler's vocals are intense here. He's trying to match the heaviness of the instrumentation. I'll put here a menacing guitar solo from Whitford. Again, Black Sabbath were without a doubt the influence on this track, whether they admit it or not. Whether they just heard a Black Sabbath track or not, I don't know. There's a definite link to both bands here, or at least linking, Aerosmith to Black Sabbath here. I gave this track an 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip. Simon.
Yeah, I picked up on the Sabbath thing as well. It's interesting that
Steven Tyler, the way he phrases a little bit, there's some Aussie stuff going on there. It's definitely
Aussieisms.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But you're right. That kind of, but that sort of weird vocal thing at the beginning, it almost sounds like a didgeridoo thing.
Oh yeah.
They go really chugging, heavy riff. That's pretty Sabbath in my books as a thing. But again, I like the fact that you have a harmony in the last line to the verse, which you've done before. Yeah, that last line, you put that harmony in just to give it some dynamics, some interest, and some color. That's a pretty cool technique as a thing. I like the fact, I like the lead guitar when it comes in. That's a contrast as well. It's at 141. But it goes into that. The second is the kind of spacey sound, isn't it? Big kind of, it sounds like he's in a really big room playing and stuff, which is not something that they've done before. So again, a different sound, different. And again, I've written sort of towards the end, the second guitar joins in with that, and it's quite trippy, psychedelic kind of vibe to it, in that section of the song, and then repeating the title over that ascending guitar playing that they do. Yeah, that's I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Really good contrast to the previous track. I think they're kind of broadening out their sound palette at this point, aren't they? They're kind of the first 3 or 4 tracks are quite linear in terms of the sound, in terms of what they're doing, and they've gradually broadened it out on side 2, which I think is really cool. Really good. Yes, 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Andrew.
Very good point, Simon. Sorry, Andrew. Very good point you brought up about the 2 guitars at the end there, and that's a really strong part with this band, the dual guitar thing. Sorry, Andrew. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no problem, bro. I've got a note here. This is Aerosmith on LSD, isn't it? It's definitely got some kind of vibe going, and it sounds like nothing else on the album. Completely and utterly a standout track because of that. And often we rank albums where some tracks on albums sound a little bit different to previous tracks, but for me, listening to it for the whole week, bro, it's like, wow, this is completely different from everything else. I love the cool reverb solo that they have at the end. I too have made that Black Sabbath kind of Aussie kind of vibe that they kind of like, very interesting. And I thought maybe I was pushing the envelope, but the fact that you guys have mentioned that sort of sets into perspective that we're sort of hearing those same threads that are so important. You got to remember that Black Sabbath were a really influential band for a lot of these American bands at this time, bro, weren't they?
100%.
Van Halen, for example. Van Halen were listening and touring with them a couple of years after this album came out. So, hugely influential. I love the fact that it sounds like nothing else on the album. I remember back in the day when I heard it, I loved it, and I haven't changed my opinion. Not quite a 10 out of 10, Simon, but it's 9 out of 10. Never a skip. And this is what beer drinkers and pot smokers might do when they take a couple of tabs.
Beer drinkers and hell raisers.
I like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think just one more sort of point that I thought of when you were talking there, that I think it's one of the things that that makes the 70s stand out is that there weren't any rules. You could have a psychedelic track, and you can have an acoustic track, and you can have a you can have a heavy track, and you can have, as we're going to come to, an orchestral track. You could do all these things, and it didn't matter, because it was, that you weren't, there were no pigeonholes or much, and so actually you could do whatever you wanted with the songs you had. You could arrange them up in any way, shape, or form that you wanted to. And the fact that it sounded completely different was a good thing and not a bad thing. And I think things have got more linear as we've got, as it's gone on. Now you're in one thing and you play, it's one sound all the way through, kind of thing. But in this case, not a bit of it. All over stuff. You could do well. You could do big 10-inch record as one end of it, and this at the other end of it, and and the next track is a complete contrast to the one we are just talking about as well. So I think that that it's that's a really important point, I think, to make about the 70s.
Oh, very, very good point, Simon. Very good point. Like you mentioned, this next track, you can see me crying. I mean, it's closing power ballad to the album, and we haven't had one on the album yet, really. When you think about Aerosmith's career moving forward, they always had a couple of power ballads per album. This is the only one on the album, and it's a departure from that raw energy from the previous tracks. You look at the guitar work here. Joe Perry's lead guitar work is melodic on this one, emotional. Same as Brad Whitford. The rhythm guitar playing supports each other as well. There's a subtle sort of backdrop with the rhythm section, like the bass by Hamilton is understated. Joey Kramer's drumming is restrained, allowing the orchestral strings to take center stage. Tyler's vocals are emotional. His piano playing, not guitar playing, his piano playing is central to the song, and reflective. It's got that feel of, reflective and looking back. The song has an almost cinematic feel to it, which they obviously went into a little bit when it came to, moving forward. They were doing soundtracks and things like that as well. I'm going to go as far as saying I'm hearing Queen vibes on this song. I definitely think they might have been listening to what was happening with the local scene. And you mentioned Queen, Simon, with Relevant Records around the same time. So I'm definitely hearing Queen. I'm going to put great guitar solo from Brad Whitford. Lots of feel, especially over the top of what the orchestra is playing. So he's playing perfectly for that. And the end guitar solo is Joe Perry, and it's timeless. It puts that emotional feel on the song. This song just highlights for me how wonderful the dual guitar thing is with this band. And moving forward, it just got greater and greater. And it's a perfect full stop to this record. I put that. It's a great song. Again, this song, back in the day when I first got into this album, I may have skipped it from time to time. It wasn't something that I gravitated to initially, but the more I've listened to this record, the more attached I've become to this song. And for that reason, I would have given it maybe a 7 or an 8, but I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 this week because I've really, gravitated to this song on the record, and it's a great way to end the record. So 9 out of 10 for me, gentlemen, and I'll hand it over to you, Simon.
Yes, complete contrast with the previous track, and complete contrast with the rest of the album. And as I go back to my point just to now about, there was nobody saying you couldn't do it or you shouldn't do it, or you kind of an orchestra, you kind of is. I mean, well, I mean, it's not the same thing, but if you take Physical Graffiti came out this year, with Kashmir, with that orchestra on it and all that, and integrate the orchestra into Banta, so as I say that, and I think that still in 75 you still got the future's wide open, isn't it? You can do anything you want, you can have anything you want. If the song is strong enough and the song is good enough, then you'll make something of it. And the fact it doesn't sound like the previous song at all, it matters not a jot about it. So I think, you've got piano start, and that's completely different to anything we've had before. Orchestra as well. Again, no orchestra, no orchestration, like that. And then that integrates him with the guitar and the bass and the drums. And then Steve and Tyler comes in singing. Have you noticed how much vibrato he's got? There's a lot of vibrato on it. It's kind of like, oh wow, there's a lot of vibrato. That big lush sound. And then you have the chorus with the ascending guitar under the singing. I think that really contrasts with the singing. That's really cool, really interesting. Clearly a lot of different parts on this. A lot of thought has gone into the arrangement of it and things. Clearly took some time to do. You've got a verse then just with the strings and the orchestra. It's kind of that middle second verse, and then you've got the guitar solo. And I think the thing I'd say about the guitar solo is that it starts off with those very long single notes.
Yeah.
You don't have to play loads. You just before, and then he gets into the proper solo and kind of speeds up a bit. But that first little bit is, I think, a really good lesson on, less is more, and just playing those long notes is fine. Go on.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And that's Brad Whitford doing the first solo too.
Yeah. But really good, and it stands out, and and that's something that always impresses me. As a man who will always play three notes when one will do. It's a lesson that I think is really well illustrated by this. And you've got a solo over the orchestra at the end and things, and you've got a drop down at the piano, for the coda at the end, which is that's beautifully constructed. It's a fantastic song. It's 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. It's and I like the fact, as you say, use the dread word power ballads, don't you? Which it must be one of the first, and not really called that at this stage. But I don't know if there are many before this, but I can't think of any particularly before this. But so yeah, definitely 9 out of 10. Never a skip. Andrew.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks, Jonas, and thanks, Hugh, for ranking with us on this album. As usual, we always enjoy you guys being participants with us. I can't add much more to what's already been said about the song, other than a couple of points that I just want to sort of draw out a little bit more. This is probably an indication of where you're going to get Steve Tyler's vocals. Probably, if you speak to somebody now who talks about, and you're talking about Aerosmith, the album rocks, and Draw the Line after this is probably the beginning of the Tyler that people know with their vocals, and you get it with this track. The Rock Professor said it with the vibrato, where Steve realizes, I think, a little bit more so after this album, that his voice is an instrument, and he can do a little bit more with it, as opposed to, being a singer or a frontman for a rock band. No disrespect to guys that just want to do that, or girls that want to do that. I think, Tyler realized, that his voice is unique. Does that make sense?
Yeah, total sense.
And we get that a little bit later. But as I mentioned earlier in the intro, one of the reasons why I love this album is because Stephen is singing with the band. He's actually a band member, as opposed to, this persona of this front man, that's out there. So definitely worth checking out. And I think one of the reasons why this album is so important, and this track is so important, the Rock Professor said it, you could do what you wanted in the 70s and get away with it to a degree. Orchestration doesn't always work with rock and roll, but it works bad with this track. It's subtle. All the band members get an opportunity to shine on this, including, Brad, which is always important. I've given this a 9 out of 10 too, and a great way. This is probably the best track to end this album with.
Yeah.
And because I'm the third guy going last, I can say I'm allowed to say, Brad, thanks for picking this album, and I think we've given a wonderful tribute to Steve Tyler, who's been a big part of this show on previous shows that we've done, Simon. We've spoken about him. We only spoke about him on the Snake Pit album. The Orgy of the Damned album that we did a couple of weeks ago, and we were blown away by his contribution.
Yeah.
And I want to back up the point that Helene made in the chat too about his harmonica playing. Just what an incredible harmonica player. Very important album. Very important album in the history of rock and roll, Brad.
100%. I'm glad we decided to do that this week and bumped other things for it, because Steven Tyler and the boys in Aerosmith have been a massive influence to me, and to hear the heartbreaking news that they weren't going to be touring anymore, I thought it was a fitting tribute to do an album this today. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure we've seen the end of Aerosmith. I think they may record still to whatever capacity Stephen can sing. But let's pray that his vocal gets better and he can do recordings. I mean, I'm guessing the choice to retire from touring is because the endurance factor you need to have when recording, when singing. Maybe recording might be different for him. We don't know, but we can only pray that we hear more new Aerosmith stuff moving forward. So, and all the best to the boys. Aerosmith. All the best to you, gentlemen. You've given us decades of amazing music and entertainment.
Awesome. Hey, John.
Yeah.
Good to see you, brother.
And
We're winding up,
I'd
bro.
say that, hats off to them for deciding to stop if it's not good. Yeah.
Well, I think that, it's a very big decision to make, but an integral one to make, because I know for a fact that Steven Tyler wouldn't want to be doing something that's second rate for his fans, for the fans of the band. So that's admirable to back out of a tour that's been booked because you think, I can't pull this off the way the fans deserve to hear it.
Absolutely. And
if he can't sing, he can't sing. It's pretty simple, isn't it, Brad?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say doesn't stop certain other people from going out?
Well, yeah.
True.
Anyway, let's not go too near that. Anyway,
No.
but so I do think that that it's it's a good move and a really good and I think it's lovely that that they've stopped. Stops. You go out on a high note. You go out when you can still do it. And you don't. You know what it's like, and you've seen it a lot recently. People go and see the bands in the 80s and stuff, and the people are not doing it like they should, and it just it leaves a bit of a taste, doesn't it, in the mouth, really, because you want to go and see your heroes and them performing properly and doing what they should be doing. And I know you went to see Paul McCartney, who was still doing it fantastic, and I went to see Bruce Springsteen, who's just incredible, doing it, and with no hint of it all going down, but that's why I went, personally, to see Bruce Springsteen. You think that 74, when's it not going to be quite what it was? And but it still was. But I think Paul McCartney was the same for you, wasn't he? Still did it really well.
Look, Simon, you could tell McCartney on the songs like Helter Skelter and that he can't quite do what he did back in the day, but that's acceptable too, and he sang it away. Was acceptable. Like, he didn't sing it badly. He just decided to opt, instead of going all that high stuff, he just opted to pick the note that was suitable.
Yeah. It still sounds fine, and
it sounds great. But
you can still hold the tune, can't you? You can still hold the melody and hold the tune and sing it properly, and I don't want to be critical, but we've seen recently people go out and they're really not singing at all, are they? They're just kind of, And
unfortunately, a lot of 80s bands have suffered that fate because back in their younger years, they had a voice that they could pull off. They led pretty decadent lifestyles, and they didn't look up to. And when it comes to singing some of their cheesier songs that were big hits at the time, they can't replicate that now because their voice is done up to it. So, yeah. But anyway, we won't on that fact.
Hats off to them. Hats off to Aerosmith for stopping. And could I echo it? I think this is a really great album. I've really enjoyed listening to it. I think that it's, it has that real 70s vibe of we can have anything we want, we can do anything we want. The future is wide open, as I said, and I think that that's really important to me. That that 70s vibe is definitely in this. Well, we can have a psychedelic bit, we can have an orchestra, we can have a acoustic guitar, we can have do whatever we want. The next track doesn't have to sound like the last track. In fact, it can definitely not sound like the last track. And we can do a 50s rock and roll thing. We can wherever we like. And I think that to me makes a really good record. I love the diversity. I was brought up in the era of diversity when albums were like that. You listen to Led Zeppelin records; they're hugely diverse.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's always been a plus. So yeah, it's been great. Been great listening to it, and I really enjoyed this week. Burying myself in it, as you could tell.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Let's say
Yeah.
one thing here. Let's bring back 70s music. I reckon. Let's bring it back.
Awesome.
Thanks,
bro.
Joe.
So we're going to be back next week, folks. We're going to do something a little bit different. Hit the notification button. We're going to be sitting down here. If you remember, a while ago, we decided that once every 6 weeks, rather than rank an album, we're going to get together and do a bit of a chat session. So we're going to be celebrating the anniversary of the Woodstock concert. So we're going to be spending a couple of hours next week talking about that. We'll have some questions to throw around to each other.
Yep.
But if you haven't already seen the film, and if you've got some time, go and watch it, or at least listen to the soundtrack. Maybe pick out some of your favorite songs off that soundtrack. You don't have to listen to the whole thing if you don't have time, because how many albums is it, Brad? 4 albums? Four LPs or 3?
Long.
Yeah, it's a long. Yeah, it's long, but we're going to talk about the social significance, not go through and rank. Trust me, we're not ranking all the tracks.
No, we can't.
We're just going to talk about the social significance of that gig, and definitely some of the artists. Jimi Hendrix is going to get a big bite of the apple, isn't he?
Of course. It's an iconic performance, probably one of the most outstanding performances in his career, really, when you think about it. So, considering the events leading up to it and all that too. So, yeah, we'll leave it for now.
Go and watch that, because that is available on iTunes. You can download if you're going to watch anything in preparation for the show next week, go and watch the Jimi Hendrix gig at Woodstock, and you can fare well knowing that you've done your research and your homework well for the Rock Professor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or you could go onto Spotify and listen to live recordings from the Festival of 1969, of which there are about 100 songs. So fill your boots if you want to do that.
Yes.
No.
That's not an ultimatum, folks. There's no ultimatums here. You don't have to do it. We're not. There's no ultimatum.
No ultimatums, no isolates.
No isolations.
No isolates and no
I think
ultimatums.
The point to make is we're having a chat about Woodstock, but we've got a subject. We're still framing it in a subject and something to talk about. So looking forward to that. It's going to be great.
Do a shout out, Rock Professor. I've got a dog that's biting me.
So yeah, good. Hugh Caldwell, good to see you back. Hope you're well. And Phil Byers, thank you very much for dropping by. Ellen, of course. It's all lovely to see you. Helene O'Hara, nice to see you, Helene, as well. It's brilliant that you've last couple of shows you've caught live, and brilliant to see you. And thank you so much for the scoring. That's been fantastic as well. John ZD351, good to see you, John. Glad you're busy, but glad you popped in to say hi. We've got Jonas Helberg. Thanks, Jonas, for you. That's fantastic. Also scoring as well. Wolfgang 5150 AKEVH, which is nice to see you from Japan. That's fantastic as well. And us with our worldwide audience. It pleases me no end. People tune in from all over the place to chat. Albert Arthur Parsnips, fantastic name. Thanks, Albert, for dropping by. Never fails to make me laugh. Anybody else we had? Gretch Zeppelin, of course, Gretch Zeppelin. Thanks, Gretch, for dropping in. And Christopher Lysover as well for dropping in with a thumbs up at the beginning. Thank you very much for that. Hopefully, hope I got everybody. Yes. Thanks very much. We had 17 people watching, so that's fantastic. So thanks for dropping in, everyone. And we'll see you next week for Woodstock, another modern classic.
You want to join us, Hugh, for the show?
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know if you want to join us, because he's made the comment here, lots to talk about. So Hugh, if anyone else wants to jump on, just let us know. If you want to come on and just speak 5 minutes talking about Woodstock, you're more than welcome. It's we can do that. You
We're
don't have to
open.
sit here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're not gonna be doing a 5-hour show. We're gonna stick to 2 hours, but
that's plenty.
You're welcome to come on.
Okay, he's coming on. So there'll be 4 of us. Awesome.
Oh, fantastic, Hugh. Hooray.
Fantastic, Hugh.
That'll be
Brilliant.
good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Rock Professor. Brad, thank you for picking this great album. And I know that we do pick really, really good albums, but I think the significance of this album, especially for Americans in the mid-1970s, taking elements from these British guys and, returning it back to Americans, Simon, in a very American way. Very, very, very clever, very smart. And you know how the Congress has, like, you can have films and albums that go into the Library of Congress, and it's stored there for its historical and cultural content.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a library of the 5150 show where we nominate albums, films, and videos for its cultural for its cultural significance. So we're going to have to talk about that a little bit more, the three of us, over the next couple of days, how we're going to do this. But
are we going to nominate ourselves to go into the Library of Congress? Are we? That's giving ourselves some side, isn't it?
If you've got any nominations for any album to go into our library of socially significant albums, let us know. They can be YouTube channels too. If you want, you can nominate other. You can, if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear. Fantastic. Come on, boss. Take us out of here. You've got dogs to walk. Take care, all. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.